Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fairy Tale Flip. I'm Mr. Tom, and with me is Ms. Mary. This is the program where we present to you a classic fairy tale or folk tale, and then the other person presents a different version of that same story to have some fun with that. So today, we're going to be doing Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I'm going to start with this one, and I'm doing the one told by Jim Aylesworth and illustrated by Barbara McClintock. And here is our bear family in their kitchen. And here is our Goldilocks for this story. Once upon a time, there lived a little girl named Goldilocks, who was very, very good. Except that sometimes she forgot to do things that her mother told her to do. Yes, she did. Fortunately, most of the things she forgot to do were small things, like forgetting to tie her shoe or forgetting to wipe her mouth after eating bread and jam. And so it didn't matter too much. But once in a while, Goldilocks would forget not to do things that her mother told her not to do. And that kind of forgetting would lead to much more serious trouble. Very like the trouble that happened on the day of this story. It all began one sunny morning when Goldilocks asked if she could go out onto the meadow to pick flowers. "You may go," said her mother, "but make sure not to go into the woods. I've heard that a family of bears lives there." "Yes, ma'am," said Goldilocks, and she picked up her flower basket and left out the door. But very soon she saw a butterfly, and she began to chase it. And as luck would have it, the butterfly led her to the very edge of the woods. And then, just then, Goldilocks saw a pretty yellow bird. And wanting to see more pretty birds, she forgot not to do what her mother told her not to do. And she followed a path up into the woods looking for pretty birds. Very soon, Goldilocks came to a curious little house there in the woods. And oh, she thought it was so pretty that straight away she peeked in through the kitchen door. In the meantime, the family of bears that lived there had just left out the front door for a walk while their bowls of breakfast porridge cooled off on their kitchen table. "Hello," called Goldilocks. "Anybody home?" Well, there was nobody home, of course, and Goldilocks should have turned around and gone back to the meadow. But oh, it was ever so pretty and curious inside there, that even though her mother had told her not to go into people's houses without being invited, she forgot not to, and she went in anyway. Straight away, she saw those porridge bowls on the kitchen table. And yes, their porridge smelled so delicious that I'm afraid she forgot that her mother had told her not to touch other people's food. And she decided that she had to have a taste. And she did. First, she took a taste from the great, huge Papa Bear bowl. But, oh my no, that porridge was much too hot. So then she took a taste from the medium-sized Mama Bear bowl. But that porridge was too cold. And so then she took a taste from the wee, small Baby Bear bowl. And she found it neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. And so delicious that without meaning to, she ate it all up. Then she went into the parlor, and there she saw three curious chairs. Goldilocks thought they were the most curious chairs that she had ever seen. In fact, they were so curious to her that even though her mother had told her not to use people's things without permission, she forgot not to. And she climbed up and she sat in the great, huge Papa Bear chair. But after only a moment or two, she found that this great, huge chair was much too hard for her. So she climbed down, and she sat in the medium-sized Mama Bear chair. But this chair was too soft for her. So next she sat in the wee, small Baby Bear chair. And this chair she found neither too hard nor too soft, but just right. But when she leaned back to make herself more comfortable, it broke and it dropped her on the floor with a crash. Well, you might think that being dropped on the floor like that would have put a stop to her being so curious. But no, it didn't. Sadly, no. For just then, Goldilocks saw the curious little stairs, and she was so intrigued that she went up them. At the top, she found an even more curious and pretty room. And even though her mother had often told her not to be nosy about other people's private business, she forgot not to. And she went in, and there she saw 3 curious beds. And where does she start, of course? Well, straight away she climbed up into the great, huge Papa Bear bed. But very like the great, huge Papa Bear chair, Goldilocks found it too hard for her. So she tried the medium-sized Mama Bear bed. But like the Mama Bear chair, she found it too soft for her. And so last, she tried the wee, small Baby Bear bed. And yes, she found it neither too hard nor too soft, but just right. And so very, very comfortable that without really meaning to, she fell sound asleep. Then, just then, the bear family returned from their walk. The great, huge Papa Bear went over to the kitchen table, and in his great, huge voice, he said, "Someone's been eating my porridge." Then the Mama Bear looked at her bowl, and in her medium-sized voice, she said, "Someone's been eating my porridge." She leaves kind of a mess when she tries the porridge. And then the Baby Bear looked at his bowl, and in his wee, small voice, he said, "Someone's been eating my porridge, and they ate it all up." Then they went into the parlor. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," said the Papa Bear in his great, huge voice. "And someone's been sitting in my chair," said the Mama Bear in her medium-sized voice. "And someone's been sitting in my chair," cried the Baby Bear in his wee, small voice. "And they broke it all up." Poor Baby Bear. Cautiously, the bears went up the stairs. The Papa Bear looked at his bed, and in his great, huge voice, he said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." You can see it's not made anymore. "And someone's been sleeping in my bed," said the Mama Bear in her medium-sized voice. "And someone's been sleeping in my bed," cried the Baby Bear. "And there she is." Just then, Goldilocks woke up, and she looked up at the bears who were looking at her. And just as fast, she remembered that her mother had told her not to talk to strangers. And she didn't do it. No, indeed, she didn't. Instead, she ran down the stairs, and she ran through the kitchen, and she ran out the door. And she ran, and she ran, and she ran all the way home. And from all that I've heard, Goldilocks' scary experience there in the woods that day did wonders to improve her young memory. And while it's true that she still sometimes forgets to do small things like tying her shoe or wiping her mouth after eating bread and jam, Goldilocks never, ever forgot not to do what her mother told her not to do ever, ever again. And that was Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mary, who is going to read her version.
Hi, everybody. Well, my version is Goldilocks and the Three Dinosaurs, retold by Mo Willems. And look at all the different combinations that Mo Willems thought about. He considered Goldilocks and the Three Terrible Monsters, Goldilocks and the Three Ants, Goldilocks and the Three Accountants, Goldilocks and the Three Goldfish. They're all crossed out. He decided he wasn't going to do any of those. He was going to tell the story of Goldilocks and the Three Dinosaurs. Once upon a time, there were three dinosaurs: Papa Dinosaur, Mama Dinosaur, and some other dinosaur who happened to be visiting from Norway. There's Papa, there's Mama, and there's the dinosaur that's visiting from Norway. One day, for no particular reason, the three dinosaurs made up their beds, positioned their chairs just so, and cooked 3 bowls of delicious chocolate pudding at varying temperatures. "Oh boy," said Papa Dinosaur in his big booming voice. "It is finally time to leave and go to the someplace else." "Yes," continued Mama Dinosaur, "I sure hope no innocent little succulent child happens by our unlocked home while we are someplace else." Then the other dinosaur made a loud noise that sounded like a big evil laugh, but was probably just a polite Norwegian expression. "Har, har, horgifs, hugark." The three dinosaurs went someplace else and were definitely not hiding in the woods, waiting for an unsuspecting kid to come by. Sure enough, in 5 minutes, a poorly supervised little girl named Goldilocks came traipsing along. Just then, the forest boomed with what could have been a dinosaur yelling, "Gotcha!" But I'm pretty sure it was just the wind. The loud noise was immediately followed by another loud noise that sounded kind of like, "Be patient, Papa Dinosaur. The trap is not yet sprung." But that could have been a rock falling or a squirrel. There's some signs here that Goldilocks passing. This says 2 miles to trap, but then trap's been crossed out and it says 2 miles to very nice house. And now this says getting closer. Either way, Goldilocks was not the type of little girl who listened to anyone or anything. For example, Goldilocks never listened to warnings about the dangers of barging into strange, enormous houses. So, as soon as Goldilocks came across a strange, enormous house, she barged right in. Inside, Goldilocks immediately smelled the 3 bowls of delicious chocolate pudding. "Mmm," said Goldilocks, "that chocolate pudding smells delicious. If only I could get all the way up to that counter." Then Goldilocks noticed a very tall ladder that just happened to be there and certainly wasn't left on purpose. Goldilocks climbed up the ladder and found herself face to face with 3 gigantic bowls of chocolate pudding. The first bowl of pudding was too hot, but Goldilocks ate it all anyway because, hey, it's chocolate pudding, right? The second bowl of chocolate pudding was too cold, but who cares about temperature when you've got a big bowl of chocolate pudding? Goldilocks is diving right in. The third bowl of chocolate pudding was just right, but Goldilocks was on such a roll by then, she hardly noticed. Soon, Goldilocks was stuffed, like one of those delicious chocolate-filled little girl bonbons, which, by the way, are totally not the favorite things in the world of hungry dinosaurs. Tired and groggy, Goldilocks noticed there were chairs in the living room. So she climbed down the ladder and walked out of the kitchen. The first chair was too tall. The second chair was too tall. But the third chair was too tall. Goldilocks wasn't going to climb that high just to sit on some chairs. So she walked over to the bedroom. When she got there, Goldilocks noticed that the beds were also gigantically big. "What is going on around here?" groaned the exhausted girl. "The bears that live here must be nuts." Just then, the room filled with a loud, booming noise that was either a passing truck or a dinosaur gloating. "A few more minutes and she'll be asleep. Delicious chocolate-filled little girl bonbons are yummier when they're well rested." See who's peeking in the windows? Even a little girl who never listens to anyone or anything had to hear that. Goldilocks took a minute to stop and think, which was longer than she was used to stopping and thinking. "Hey," she told herself, "this isn't some bear's house. This is some dinosaur's house." Say what you like about Goldilocks, but she was no fool. As quickly as she could, she ran out the back door to get out of the house. Just then, a loud plane flew by, which sounded pretty much like a trio of dinosaurs yelling, "Now!" or "Charge!" or the Norwegian expression for "Chewy bonbon time." Suddenly, and completely coincidentally, the three dinosaurs rushed through the front door, but they were too late. There's the back door, it's open. Goldilocks was gone, and all that was left in the house were three disappointed dinosaurs. It says the end. But you know how some stories have a moral, which is like a lesson to take from the book. And this story has a moral too. And the moral is, if you ever find yourself in the wrong story, leave. And there goes Goldilocks, heading off to the right story with the three bears. And the moral for dinosaurs is, lock the back door. The end. And here's finally, Goldie's in the right story, and it's been circled. Goldilocks and the three bears. The end. All right, well, that is our fairy tale flip, and we hope you enjoyed hearing about two versions of Goldilocks. Have a good day.